Hello, it's Rafael Gutierrez, and today I'm going to talk about a couple things. The first thing I should mention is, and I'm using my phone as to remind me, is there's actually a seminar in Scottsdale, Arizona on the Peaceful Warrior Martial Arts Healing Center. And they've actually been doing it quite a few years now. It's always been a lot of fun. I've gone to, I think it was three of them, maybe two. But it's going to be on February 17th to the 19th. 2018, so next year, technically, a couple months. And I mention it because it's one of those seminars which has actually been a lot of fun. It brings a lot of people together, and it's interesting in that we end up finding there. When I've gone is it seems to be more of a look. Let's see the similarities rather than the differences. And a lot of times by doing this, you actually, even sometimes when something's just slightly different than how you do it, you get something new out of it. If you're going to be in Arizona, or if not, if you like to travel, I hope I can meet some of you there. And like I said, it's always a lot of fun. You have some great martial artists teaching different things. Enfield Sensei from Goju-Ryu has been there a few times. Chuck Merriman Sensei has actually been there a few times as well. Ed Sumner, which some of you may know, was one of the direct students from Shinin Sensei. He's taught a few times. Like the Shundokan is there, which they have a lot that they can teach. If you get a chance to go, usually it's a good time. It's a good seminar, nice weekend, and this time it's on a long weekend. So it makes it pretty good, really good. And I'm going to do something probably on looking at the idea of Ikken hiatsu with the clinical approach. And I've done it before, but I think I'm going to do it a little different this time. Now, the other thing I actually want to talk about is a book that I mentioned I got, and I really did like, even when I didn't get a chance to go through it as well as I would like. And this is Research of Martial Arts by Bluestein. And it actually was a lot. Well, I really enjoyed it. I'm going to actually mention that right off. It was a little different than I thought. I was in many ways expecting a lot of the biology aspect, mostly because that's what I fall prey to. But I was actually pleasantly surprised with a lot of different things. I should mention it did do exactly what it did tell you. It did tell you. It did research a lot of the martial arts, and one of the nice things is, well, it seems, I will say seems because I haven't met Mr. Bluestein directly. It seems he's more of an internal martial artist. Most people tell me I'm kind of following the external martial arts. It seems like one of the things that he did touch on a lot was the whole idea that we actually use these separations, but at the end of the day, the internists tend to do stuff which external people do. The external do stuff that internal do. The other thing is there's a big difference in the range of internal martial artists and external martial artists. For instance, like I said, a lot of people tell me I'm more of an external, but I tend to want everything to be done with the Western science. And that sometimes falls more on the internal rather than the external, because the idea being, well, external, a lot of the external tend to go more to the sport aspect. Well, if you're actually looking at clinical anatomy and damage, the sport aspect doesn't really fall too well. And so you do have this range of people. And like I said, I actually thought it was really good the way he actually did write it. The voice in it was actually really good because you don't feel like you're reading a textbook. It actually reads pretty quick. He does have a lot of great pictures. So, for instance, he has one here with the circulatory system. There's a lot of great information in here. One of the things he did, which a lot of us tend to do, is we tended to look at the people who have taught us as well and use them as references, which I think is great. Now, there is actually one part which for me I really love, and it's the power of whole body in general movements and strikes. Now, one of the reasons is a lot of times people do isolate stuff, and when I teach kinesiology, I actually will tell you, we actually talk about closed chain kinematic movements and open chain kinematic movements. And most natural movements that develop the most power tend to be the uh, pretty much the ones that are using your entire body. The ones that are just using one joint usually don't develop as much force because, well, if you think of using just your arm versus your entire body, he actually had a lot of explanations on how that works, which I thought was great. And it's just one of the chapters that I really did enjoy. Now, like everything, there are things that you won't like about certain things, and a lot of them were things that were kind of a I may be looking at it at a different angle. But the truth is, I couldn't argue with any of the stuff he actually put in because it was backed up by research, and that's really what he actually did a really great job in. Is he researched everything. He has a lot of great points that he does make, and even if you disagree with something, well, you have to sit. You actually have to give him that. It's actually it actually is well researched. It did open my eyes to a lot of different things. One of the big things is realizing that while I have always seen myself more of a, this is how it works and why, and I really never paid too much attention to the more of the philosophical aspects of internal arts. I did realize the importance of them, even in the art I did, and so I will actually tell you, it's actually if it's it's actually a really good book to actually look at, especially if you want to know about a lot of different martial arts. I do also have his another book he wrote, which is for people who are teaching martial arts, and what I will talk about that more as I finish that one completely. But I just wanted to say that yes, it's the one of the things that happens with a lot of books is they're perfect for the time period you're at. Now, this one, the researcher of martial arts, he tended to try to go into a little bit of everything, and so he went into these broad terms, which is actually great. Like I said, for me, I got a lot out of it. And maybe someone who was an intern, more into the internal martial arts, might think of it as well, I already know the stuff. But then he also have the stuff of external martial arts, which someone who did internal might not have gone as deep into it as he did. So overall, like I said, a great book. I really enjoyed it. I actually ended up going through it twice, and both times I found a lot of information in there. Like I said, if you are interested in something where you go into the different aspects of martial arts, this is actually a great book for it. If you're looking for bunkai and application, well, that's not what the book's about. The book really is trying to show you the variations within martial arts, why one thing works and why one thing works for one style and might not necessarily be done in another style. And like I said, for what it is, it's a great book, and I'm glad I have it, and I'm glad I've actually got a chance to go through it. So that's a quick just overview of the book. Like I said, he goes into a lot of different things, which, like I said, I learned a lot about different ideas behind martial arts, which I honestly will say I didn't know everything about before. I'm sure for some people it'd be, well, it skims the surface of everything, but you think about it, you're talking about an inch thick book, a lot regular print. You really are talking about something that it isn't as in depth as it could be with that. I'm sure he could probably go and do 5 or 6 volumes of it if he wanted to, but the purpose of the book is to show us the research that was done in martial arts. He actually, like I said, cites everything, and so it really is something that's worthwhile. Now that I say that, I do want to talk a little bit about what I'm probably going to be talking about in the seminar, and that's the idea of the Ikken hiatsu. Now, a lot of people, when they hear Ikken hiatsu, they go dim mak, and now I finally, I will say with Mr. Bluestein's book, I actually can say, okay, well, dim mak, a lot of people misuse the term. There is actually something to it. Now, one of the things when I first did the whole idea is of Ikken hiatsu as a way to train, I actually decided, okay, what does Ikken hiatsu really mean? And technically, it's a philosophy. It's that you should try to end a fight with one move. Everything should be one. Now, that is something that is really in karate. A lot of people say, oh no, that's in swordsmanship and bow. The truth is, in karate, it's meant to be a self-defense. In self-defense, you want to end the fight as fast as you can. Now, a lot of people say, well, this is impossible because, you can't, if you watch boxers, they don't knock each other out all the time. And one of the things that you'll notice, though, is when you're dealing with something like boxing, you have safety equipment to keep from having serious injuries, which means that you may not necessarily get the knockouts or the death, the disabling blows that you would have in otherwise. If you really want to look at what disabling blows are, the Ikken hiatsu, you don't want to look at the sport as it's done under normal circumstances. What you want to do is look at the injuries. Now, a lot of people will tell you this is messed up. I mean, instead of looking at, how to win the game, you're now looking at how to injure someone so they cannot compete anymore. And that's a big difference. I mean, you think about it. In MMA, a lot of people talk about the brutality, but one of the things you notice is most of the time, at the end of the bout, both athletes are standing right next to each other or right next to the ref, so things can happen. In boxing, usually people win based on points. It's, yes, it can happen with knockouts, it can happen with submissions, which submissions, if you think about it, both of you are alive. And I'm not actually saying, submission isn't a disabling blow. If you think about it, if someone's doing an armbar, and instead of doing it slow so you have time to tap it, they just grab you, boom, your arm's no longer functioning, it's a disabling blow. So you do have disabling strikes and different things. But to do it right, you can't look at the sport, you have to look at the injuries. And so, as I was doing this, I found that there are different ways people can cause disabling or strikes that end the fight. One of them is actually to stop breathing. If you actually remove the airway, if you remove the ability to get air into your body, people pass out. It's over. It doesn't matter. You can't breathe. Your fight is going to be gone. The other one that I found is blood. Now, this one, a lot of times people think of bleeding, just the bleeding outside, but internal too. If you're losing blood internally, your mind can't function as well, and it will shut off. The problem with both of these is these can end up leading to something that is, either sending someone to a hospital or morgue, which both of them are probably something that we don't necessarily want to get to. So we have the airway, the air, the blood, and then we also have something else, the brain. If you can shut off the cranial area, if you can shut off the brain, the person's not going to fight. Now, this is your knockouts. This is anything that shuts that off. Now, if you notice, all three of these kind of work together. Now, these three can also be lethal, and you have other stuff that wouldn't be. For instance, if someone's knee gets broken, obviously it's not going to be something that they can stand up with. And so, yes, they might be able to do some groundwork, but even there, from what I've seen, a lot of judo and jiu-jitsu tend to use legs to be able to work some of the techniques. And so knees, if someone breaks an arm, you actually are limiting the amount of stuff they can do. And so there is that other aspect of just breaking the structure. So I guess you could say air, blood, cranium, and structure. So you got your ABCs of what would entail a lethal strike. Now, as I was thinking about this, I also was thinking of where are the areas that can cause any of these things to happen. Pretty much a destabilization of either air intake, blood circulation, or cranial shutdown. And I ended up looking at one of the Bubishi maps. I've actually done that a lot. And what I found is a lot of these points ended up being almost identical to places that if the body was hit, it would injure one of these areas. Now, a lot of people don't necessarily research it as well as they should. And in part, I think it's because there's not that many books that really do help you research it. A lot of times people who understand the Bubishi tend not to talk about what it's actually happening. Other people know what happens, but they can't explain why. And so that's one of the big things. Now in the seminar, I will talk a little bit about that, and I probably will talk about kata as a way to determine where to hit. Now, a lot of times there are hits that people think are good, but in reality, they're only good if you're wearing a glove. If you hit someone like that without a glove, you can end up having a lot of problems. And so, I will, I as I go on, I have actually done a lot of Mubishi, but I did want to talk about the how to actually look at Ikken hiatsu when you're doing karate. One of them is take an anatomy book, and as I am going to be doing the seminar, I am going to update one of my anatomy textbook lab manuals. It's actually a workbook that you can actually try to learn anatomy from, which will actually help me explain to people what the why certain points are actually more damaging than others. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you want to support me, you can send me stuff, or you can actually pick up one of my books. Serious and the Rarest Things is, like I always mention, it's a adventure through Okinawa. Off the Rails, it's actually a train trip from San Diego, where I lived, all the way up to Oakland, where I did get a chance to stop and meet a lot of great martial artists and a lot of different styles. Hope you enjoyed this, and hope you have a nice day.